Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by real fans for real movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It's where you're going to find episodes of this show, videos, links, all kinds of stuff. You can also find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. And we are also on Patreon. So if you're a fan of the show, would like to help support the show and keep it rolling, you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, the hugest of thank yous to all of our patrons who do keep the show rolling. We can't do it without you, and you guys are the best. So huge thank you, patreon.com/holybatcast. We're also a proud member of the Real Fans Podcast Network and a lot of other shows there. So if you can't get enough of this talk, you can check out Real Fans for Real Movies, or RF4RM. Most recently on that show, we reviewed A Quiet Place, and it was just me and Jamie, so it'll be like an extension of this show. There's also Disorder, Every Disney Film, where we just reviewed The Jungle Book, and we're about to release The Aristocats. And then finally, the newest member of the family, Please Rewind, the RF4RM Retro Show. And most recently, Tim, Jamie, and Guy reviewed Dazed and Confused. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com, or you can just search for them by name wherever you get your podcasts. As always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. Hello. And if you'd like to follow me when I'm not talking about Batman, you can follow me on Instagram or on Twitter. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we're going to be reviewing the new DC animated film Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. Joining me, as always, the Copperhead to my Killer Frost, Mr. Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie.
I was going to make a snake noise, but I didn't muster it up in time. So, hi, everybody. How you doing?
That's okay. You have a slightly serpentine quality about you anyway.
That's just a lisp. Don't worry about
it. How you been, man?
Oh, pretty good. Enjoyed
Sweet.
A couple of days of really nice warm weather, and now winter's back again for another few days.
Geez, the Midwest.
Wait 5 minutes if you don't like the weather, man.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's going to snow, and then 2 days later it's going to get back up into the 60s. What are you going to do?
Well, hang in there. What you will do is you will stay inside and podcast.
That is correct. You are absolutely correct, sir.
Keep you out of the elements, keep you out of trouble, and keep people at home, giving them something to listen to. My pain is your gain, people. There you go. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome for Jamie living in the frozen tundra of Fort Wayne. Anyway, we're going to talk about the new DC animated film. We're going to take a step away from the Mr. Freeze saga for an episode or two. So the last two episodes, we talked about Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. And then we talked about the first two episodes of Batman, the animated series that were centered around Mr. Freeze. And then we've got two more that we need to do. But we're going to take a little break. We are going to circle back around to that, though. So don't worry. If you're a big Mr. Freeze fan like me and you want us to finish it up, we will finish it up. We're not going to leave you high and dry. But we got a new DC animated movie, and we always like to review these to give you guys our thoughts and our take on them. They just keep coming, and we just keep watching them and buying them and reviewing them on the show. So this latest one is a Suicide Squad film. And it is just me and Jamie here to talk about it. Unfortunately, Brendan Lowe couldn't make this episode. He has actually entered a Captain Boomerang look-alike contest. And just know that we're all rooting for him. We think he's going to do great. We think he is a shoo-in, and I think he's going to take home the Golden Wallaby. So we're rooting for you, Brendan. Good luck. Let us know how it goes, and maybe we'll get you on the next episode.
Did you see the picture? He had the pink unicorn and everything. It was pretty sweet.
It's the attention to detail that makes him such a fantastic cosplayer.
He hates us, but that's all right. This is hilarious.
Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about the other Captain Boomerang, the animated one, and the rest of the animated Suicide Squad in the newest DC animated film, direct-to-video or digital, however you watch it. That is Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. And that's not hell to pay. because that would be like a fake wig for men that's cursed by the devil. That'd be a hell to pay. It's kind of like that Treehouse of Horror when Snake gets killed on The Simpsons and Homer buys his hair, and then he possesses him. That would be the hell to pay. And this is hell to pay. It's completely different.
Nice play on words. I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. It is not a sequel to the other Suicide Squad animated film we got, which was Batman Assault on Arkham. You know, that Batman movie, which was a Suicide Squad movie. Right. That one was set in like the Arkham universe. This is arguably set in the main continuity for the animated films. It could go either way. I think they kind of hedged their bets so they could make it work either way. It can kind of stand on its own, but maybe it's connected to the rest of the universe. I can't think of anything in the film that directly says one way or the other.
I can't either.
Because there's not, I mean, spoilers, there's not a single Batman cameo or a single hero cameo in this. Well, actually, no, there's one hero cameo. Strike that. So there is one hero, but it's not someone from like the main continuity from like Justice League War or Throne of Atlantis or Son of Batman, that, you know, that whole New 52 continuity that's been going on. So this one, I think is technically part of it, but again, they could get away with it either way. We will start spoiler free with our reactions, and then we will give you the spoiler warning and let you know when it's okay to bail out. So, Jamie, spoiler free reaction of the latest animated film, Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay.
Okay, I'm going to start positive and tell you what I liked about this movie. So there was this preview segment for the Death of Superman animated movie that's coming later this spring. You know, not quite 8 minutes long. You know, I always enjoy watching those on these animated films, and I enjoyed seeing that. You know, that one looks like it's very much in the continuity of the films that you already mentioned there. It looks like it's going to be entertaining. I'm very much looking forward to that. And then, of course, we'll get the sequel later this year or early next year, whenever that's coming, with the Return of Superman. So that looks good.
I agree. And because it says that's coming out spring, and it's already spring, so I think it's coming soon, maybe May or June.
I've never seen an official release date on it, but I mean, we've got, you know, Hell to Pay just hit digital a few weeks ago, and then Blu-ray last week. And then we've got Batman Ninja, which I don't know exactly how much involvement this studio has with that, but I mean, it feels to me like they're all released by the same people anyway. Mm-hmm. Coming out, I think, like the first week in May on Blu-ray. So I don't know.
So I don't know. I don't know when this one's coming.
Content that quick, I'm okay with it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, technically, spring will run until like the third week of June too. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. I think this one looks cool. It definitely looks different enough from Batman. I can't help it. Superman Doomsday, which was the very first DC animated film. It looks like they've done enough different that it doesn't feel like a rehash. That one is definitely set in that New 52 continuity from Justice League War, Throne of Atlantis, Justice League versus Teen Titans, all those. So, yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it. But that means that we've got to do Superman Doomsday before that. We'll have to revisit that film.
I don't mind that one. I mean, I know they made a lot of changes, and I know it was kind of maybe a little wobbly, you know, first one out of the gates and all, but I don't mind it. I thought it was pretty decent.
Spoiler alert. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. This new one coming out is actually going to make some changes from the original source material of the comics that I'm going to appreciate, because we didn't have like the true Justice League that heavily involved with this, as you know, as we know it, with like the big 6 or 7 characters in it. Right. And this one is, you know, they showed Doomsday clocking Hawkman, and Batman's looks like he's beat almost to a pulp and throwing explosives at Doomsday. And this is what I want to see, is Doomsday fighting them. But it also triggered that thing in the back of my head. It's like, God dang it, I told everybody Doomsday was a Justice League level threat, and he shouldn't have just been fighting Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. But, you know, that's just me being picky in hindsight. So
I understand that. But yeah, I like that they're involving the rest of the league in this. I think it looks great. So I'm glad that was a big positive for you.
Yeah, definitely. So
anything else?
That's essentially where my positive comments about this film are going to end.
Wow.
Yeah. I did not enjoy this film at all. I mean, there's one or two things I can probably say, I'll acknowledge I thought were okay, but as a whole, this is definitely a bottom tier DC animated film for me. And I know some people out there enjoy it. If you enjoy this, more power to you. But for me, the characters didn't work. I thought the story was really flimsy. I had almost no appreciation for it from start to finish. And that's unfortunate because I paid $20 to buy it in a nice steel book that's going to sit on my shelf forever because I ain't watching this again.
Maybe I'll force you to watch it for its 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in 10 years.
I just don't want your $20 to go to waste.
Well, I appreciate that, but right now I'm calling it a waste. So.
Wow.
Other than the fact I can say I still have my continuity streak of owning all these films from start to finish. I mean,
I know.
That's
See?
like $20 spent on that, I guess.
Completist.
Yeah. No, it just... I don't know what everybody else saw in this movie that they enjoyed, but they didn't make it for me. That's as good as I can tell you.
All right, fair enough. I actually liked it. So we're going to be on opposite ends here. I didn't quite love it, but I liked it. I had a good time with it. It knew what it was. And I think that's what I liked about it, is that like it was unabashed in what it was trying to be. And so I was able to go with it in that way. It is, I mean, we'll get this right out of the way. It's a hard R. And it's amazing that they keep making these animated movies as rated R. But this one...
You could literally cut... I'm going to go out and say 30 seconds. And I think that's being high. 30 seconds of this movie and make it not R. So I wasn't very appreciative of the stuff they added in there just because they quote unquote could.
You think?
Yeah.
I feel like this thing was packed with R-rated stuff.
I mean, you
especially when it comes to violence.
The violence is definitely cranked up. The language is definitely cranked up. You have some brief but very noticeable nudity in there. I mean, they added a lot of things in here that weren't. Like I say, okay, let's say, first of all, I thought this was really long compared to the other ones. I think it was like an hour and 26 minutes.
Yeah, it was a good 11 minutes longer than usual, which shocked the hell out of me because these things have been 75 minutes on the dot for years.
And that floored me because how many times have we said, man, I wish we could have got another 5 or 10 minutes out of this movie. And this is the friggin' one they choose to give me almost 90 minutes of runtime? Come on, guys. I
was shocked because I started this at midnight last night, and I was like, well, at least it'll only be 70 minutes. So I can still be in bed at a somewhat decent hour. And I was like, oh no, this one's 90 minutes? That's crazy. I don't know what changed that allowed them to go that long. Personally, I didn't mind it because again, I enjoyed myself, but I was shocked by that.
Yeah. This ain't the movie I would have picked to do it, but I think you could have done plenty of alterations to this to turn out less than R, but the audience they're making this for apparently appreciates the R rating stuff. So go on if it works for you. For me, I thought a lot of it was completely unnecessary. I know I'm sounding like a broken record on a lot of that stuff, but some of the violence things, I guess, I don't have a great opposition to seeing violence, especially in an animated film, because I mean, violence is fake to me anyway, and animated violence is just one step further away. So, I mean, that doesn't bother me, but like some of the things in there were just, I can't even address them without getting across the spoiler wall, but I don't know. It's not necessarily one of those movies where they needed the R to make it work. It's just one where I feel like they went off some rails with it because they were allowed to.
I don't disagree, but I think that, I guess where I was going is some of these that have been rated R haven't needed to be rated R. Like Justice League Dark, I couldn't believe that was rated R because I feel like there wasn't a lot in there that made it rated R. In fact, I was shocked that it was after watching it. And so for that, I was like, yeah, like, why was it even rated R? What was the point? Killing Joke, I understand why that one was rated R. That made sense. And then there were a lot of these PG-13 ones where I felt they kept, they like to dance on the line between PG-13 and R where they could, to the point where it was kind of annoying because, like, Justice League War, there's no reason that couldn't have been an all ages movie, but then every once in a while someone says shit and you're like, what's the point? Why are you saying that? There's no reason to say it, but you say it because you can, and now it feels slightly less accessible to kids. So that frustrates me way more than this one did, because this one, it was very obvious that they're like, no, this is a hard R. That's the way it's conceived, and that's the way we're going to execute it. So this one goes for the R rating in a way that nothing has prior to this, and that's why I was okay with it, because I'm like, okay, you guys are just completely going balls to the wall. You're showing no restraint. Great. That's what you wanted to make, and I'll go with you on it. And so that's why I was okay with it. Could they have made the same story in a PG-13 version? Sure, of course they could have. But that's not the movie they set out to make. And that's why it's, instead of it just being a perfectly appropriate film for all ages, except for one or two parts that just make you go, what? It's 100% conceived for adults and adults only. They
embrace it more fully. I will definitely say that.
And that's why I was like, okay, fine. Like, that's the movie you wanted to make. Great, I'll go with you on it. I have no problem. And they've even said, like, they wanted this to be essentially the Suicide Squad Grindhouse movie. So they wanted it to be hyper violent, sex, drugs, just crazy. And that's what it is. And so I'm like, well, you delivered what you set out to make. Whether it's to your personal tastes, completely up to you, of course.
Seeing as how they kind of aped some of the stylistic elements and even some music out of the Grindhouse movie that Tarantino and Rodriguez released in 2007 or whatever that was. Yeah, I would say they're not being shy about that.
No, absolutely. They're very upfront, because even the title card, which I actually really liked, like the title card, like it had the grainy film scratches in it and everything, and the big explosion, and it was meant to be a Grindhouse B movie starring the Suicide Squad. And I feel like if there's a property to do something in that style, this is the right one. And
do you remember that Spectre short film that they released on the front of one of the other DVDs? See,
yeah.
I think that one did it the same style, but far more effectively and better made, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it since it was new, so I would have to revisit it. But I have a vague recollection.
It's that same style where it's like kind of got that graininess to the film and whatnot. You know, the music is a little bit more of a throwback style, but very much done in that same vein.
Yeah. And yeah, and I'm okay with tweaking the style and making it unique. And again, that's what they decided to do here. And so I had no problem with it. I was okay with it. So yes, from the very beginning, like, so violent, blood splatters, headshots, people chopped apart. It's ridiculous, but I went with it. So overall, I had a good time with it. I liked that and no one was safe. I guess I'll just leave it at that until we get over the spoiler wall. I liked that this movie really went for it. I thought the animation was really solid. I think a lot of the action was really solid. I liked the combination of characters they chose, because some of them were choices that were a bit unexpected, and I do enjoy that. Like I mentioned Copperhead. I always thought Copperhead was cool, but I haven't seen him in anything in forever. And so the fact that they threw him in here as part of the Suicide Squad, I'm like, that's fun. You know, one of the strengths of Suicide Squad is how you can mix up these random characters. I think the vocal performances were all really good. And so, yeah, overall, I had a good time with it. If the things I didn't like about it, I think that some of the character work was not as deep as it could have been, especially considering where the movie ends up going. I wanted a little more time to get to know the characters, because that should matter later, but it doesn't. I'm wondering how much of that they figured were basing. They have an established fan base for the Suicide Squad because of the movie or the Assault on Arkham or any of that other stuff. They figure a lot that watched this movie already had that. That's my guess anyway. Yeah. But you're right. A lot of the character work to me was just flat lazy. So. Well, and yeah, I think so. And I think they do the other Suicide Squad movies have done as well, which is they introduce them quick and fast and say, okay, I get who this is. And I don't need to go deep on everyone, but the two characters that I think need to go the deepest are Deadshot, because this is another Deadshot-led film, and then Bronze Tiger. Bronze Tiger is a very important character in this film, and it's important to get to know him better, and you don't quite get there. I don't need...
Definitely going to revisit that point when we get over the wall.
Exactly. Like, I don't need a huge in-depth backstory for Copperhead. I'm just glad he's along for the ride. But
some of these guys you figure are red shirts anyway.
Exactly. But if you're going to make Bronze Tiger like the soul of your film, earn it. So
right. I mean, he was essentially the Diablo character in this.
Right.
The reluctant one who, I don't know, it's hard to say, but yeah, he needed more. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, so I think that was a little lacking, but overall I had a good time with it.
I hate to say this because I actually do like the guy. I consider myself somewhat of a fan. I didn't care for Christian Slater's turn in here.
I didn't dislike his performance, but I didn't think his voice quite fit the character.
That may be more of it. I mean, I'm not saying his performance was really bad. I just, it's almost like there's too much of a shock difference of what you're expecting or what you already knew. Like when they had, I can't remember his name, Thomas, the guy from Dharma and Greg that voiced Deathstroke in one of those.
Thomas Gibson.
Gibson, yeah. Thank you. I was going to say Hayden Church, but I knew that wasn't right. It just didn't fit for me.
Right.
Like the other voices I thought were more or less fine. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, it just, especially because we've seen now Deadshot in a couple other things, his voice was so different that it was a little jarring. I don't really blame Christian Slater for it, but it just feels like, oh, this is a totally different character now. I love that Vanessa Williams was Amanda Waller. I think that is inspired.
Didn't realize that until I got to the closing credits, and then I was like, huh.
I've always loved her anyway. So I guess I shouldn't. I shouldn't have talked about her now. I should have saved the best for last. Thank you. I thought that was
that sound effect is me looking at my watch, going, "How long is he going to hang on for that punchline to catch?"
I'll be right here. I'll just sit right here. I've always liked her. I think she's amazing, but I think she'd be a great live action Amanda Waller.
I think she's beautiful. I don't find her particularly talented in the acting department.
Oh God. Oh, do you never watch Ugly Betty? She was amazing in Ugly Betty.
No, I did not.
Oh,
I saw Eraser. Good. That was enough.
Oh, I like Eraser too.
I don't dislike the movie. Well, I'm not a fan of the movie, but that movie's got way too many issues. But I don't want to talk about here. But no, she was not good in that.
Oh, she's gotten better. I think that was one of her very first acting roles. She's definitely gotten better, but I thought she was really great casting as Waller. So who else? Liam McIntyre is Captain Boomerang. Tara Strong is back as Harley Quinn. Kristen Bauer Van Straten, which is a hell of a name. I know her from True Blood. She's Killer Frost. C. Thomas Howell is Professor Zoom. Who else do we got in here? There's some good people.
The C. Thomas Howell one was another one that kind of shocked me when we got to the closing credits, because I was like, oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah. So great, good voice cast overall. But I do agree that Christian Slater's voice didn't quite fit for Deadshot.
Like there was probably a better option out there, but Slater's a recognizable enough name where, if they get him on the horn, they're like, hey, what would you like to do? And he's like, this, or, we have the lead role in this Suicide Squad movie open. If we can put you in the title card for it, something along those lines. I don't think they picked him because he was the best choice, I guess is what I'm coming to.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they do try to get some recognizable name at some point. But I do think that the other thing about this, speaking of the style of it, it's obviously not Assault on Arkham, and it, again, arguably is part of the main continuity, but it's very obvious that they're also making it close enough to the live action film that fans of the live action film would watch this and be able to reconcile the two in their mind.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're playing multiple angles here where they're like, it's Deadshot still up front. He's white again. He's not Will Smith, but he still looks essentially the same. Harley Quinn's design is still very similar to Margot Robbie's. Amanda Waller still looks pretty close to how she did in the movie. So that way, I think that people who just know the live action movie could pick this up and go, oh, yeah, it's still the Suicide Squad.
Heart and soul wise, it honestly feels like the Rebirth comic series to me. The characters, I mean, Deadshot, Boomerang, and Harley are obviously mainstays in pretty much any iteration you get of these guys anymore. But, other than changing around all but those three main cast members, this had very much the feel of the comic, although the comic will push the lines of more out-of-bounds type humor, fourth wall kind of stuff, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. They'll push that a lot more. But, I mean, heart and soul wise, it really felt like the comic series as it currently runs, which I'm not a huge fan of that either. So I guess I'll say that if you like I can't remember if it's Rob Williams or Rob Williamson, or I think it's Rob Williams is the guy that writes that title. If you like the Suicide Squad comic book as they've done since Rebirth kicked off, you're probably going to like this movie because it does feel quite similar with, like I say, the changes to the cast are really the only major differences you feel to it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read the Rebirth Suicide Squad, so I will take your word for it.
I wouldn't recommend reading it, but, that's me.
Okay. And Billy Brown plays Bronze Tiger, but I do not know his name.
I don't know the name. I thought he did a reasonably good job, though.
I guess he's on How to Get Away with Murder.
I don't watch that.
With the other Amanda Waller, as it turns out, because that's where Viola is. That's Viola's show.
She's on that?
Yeah, I think that's her show.
Why did I not know that?
So,
wait, I was thinking of the Kerry Williams show, but that's Scandal, isn't it?
Yes, okay. That's Scandal. Yeah. So How to Get Away with Murder, it's Viola Davis's show. So I hope they talked about Suicide Squad in between takes. But yeah, I don't know him. I guess he was on Dexter, which I never watched.
Was he I watched Dexter.
Sons of Anarchy. So he's done a lot of stuff, but yeah, nothing that I've seen.
Watch Dexter. Stop after season 3. Trust me.
Okay, I will. The other thing I will say that I liked, because I am a fanboy, is how many characters they packed into this movie. So many. I was amazed and shocked at how many people show up in this thing.
They certainly didn't skimp out on that part, but there were 2 or 3 that I was like, who the hell is that? Oh yeah, there's some deep cuts, but it was just packed with cameos or bit parts or whatever, where I was like, man, and I would even call that a plus and a minus, because it's a plus because I just love seeing as many characters as they can fit into a movie. But at the same time, there are certain things that it feels a little scattered, because you've got the Suicide Squad. And I don't think this is a spoiler, but you've got Suicide Squad, and then you have 2 other opposing groups. Let's put it that way. And so it makes it a little more complicated, where I'm like, wait, why are the other 2 against each other? It was just a little more confusing because of that. But I did like that there was just so many different characters in this. I could have took it or leave it, honestly. But, by the time some of these groups started showing up, I had lost my ability to care about anything that was happening. Did you check out pretty early on? I watched the first 45, maybe close to 50 minutes before I left for church this morning, and then watched the rest like a couple hours ago. And I was hoping, being throughout my day and being more awake and everything else, because I watched it this morning before anybody else was up. So, usually it's my comic reading time. So I drink my coffee, read my comics, and instead I watched this. So I thought maybe I was grumpy because, I'm tired and, trying to focus on something. And then I watched the second half later. I'm like, nope, I was spot on. All right. So I won't say I checked out early. I just, my ability to give a damn about anything that happened checked out early, but my focus on the movie didn't, if that makes any sense. Like I wasn't playing with my phone watching it or anything like that. Okay. Yeah, I guess I just mean like in the first 15 minutes were you like, I hate this.
And then the rest of the time you just sat there angry.
Pretty much everything that happens after the opening sequence, I was just like, okay. Like the opening sequence was fine. It didn't blow me away. But like everything that happened after that just like gradually just kept going downhill.
Okay. Well, why don't we talk spoilers then? So I had a good time. Jamie did not. So judging by that, your mileage may vary. It depends. Do you want a grimy grindhouse Suicide Squad movie that's super violent and intentionally
that you can tell
trashy?
Obviously is going out of its way to try and be exactly that. There's no organicness to it whatsoever. Sorry, I just had to slide that in there.
Well, yes, it's going out of its way because that's what it's trying to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. You've got two very different opinions on the movie. So you decide if that sounds like something that you want to give a shot to. But we'll start talking spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now is your chance to bail. Jamie, question for you though.
Yes.
We're over the wall, but question for you. I mean, obviously we've talked about it in the past, your daughters being big Harley Quinn fans. Are they aware of this movie? And then now how are you going to fight them so they don't watch it?
Let's see. My daughters, the last one that they watched, I think was the Batman and Harley Quinn. And
okay,
one of them got up and left like not even halfway through it, and the other one just didn't like it when it was done. Which that was the Harley Quinn fan that did that. So after they became aware of this film yesterday, I think is when I told them about it. They're like, we want to watch it. I'm like, well, it's an R-rated, so I have to watch it first. So I watched, the first half or whatever it was this morning. And they're like, how is it? I said, it's dumpster juice. They're like, oh, okay. And they never said another word about it.
All right. Well, it's good that they trust you. Well, and I will say this. I mean, we're over the spoiler wall. It's not too spoilery, though. Is Harley Quinn barely registers in this movie. She's just kind of there.
She's nothing but comic relief. She literally adds no kind of character weight to this film whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, there were times I forgot she was in the movie. And then I was like, oh, and then she'll pop up and do something silly. And I'm like, oh, there she is. But yeah, she's not important to this movie at all. She's just kind of along for the ride.
Marketable by name only. No effort put into it at all. Like Tara Strong probably could have finished her parts in less than 2 days.
Less than 2 hours, because she didn't get much dialogue. Like Killer Frost has a bigger role than Harley Quinn.
I agree. And let me just go out and say that I'm kind of shocked, given the fact that they pushed Killer Frost as hard as they have in the comics lately with the Justice League of America, which is an atrocious book. Don't read it. It's awful. But she's been at the forefront of that. And obviously on the Flash TV series, I can't believe they killed her in this.
Well, that's the other thing is, especially because of the Flash, Killer Frost has become something of an anti-hero. And so to see her back to being just a straight up villain in this, it was a little jarring, but I'm like, well, I guess that's how it should be. I think that the Flash takes liberties because that actress is just so likable, and it's hard to not want her to be somewhat good.
True, but they, like I say, that Justice League of America book, they've really pushed her as the heroic element. I mean, she's a full-blown member of the JLA in this thing.
Huh. Okay. I didn't realize that.
The book is butt juice. It's terrible. Do not read it, but I'm telling you.
Butt juice.
They have her and Lobo and Batman and Black Canary and the Ray and the Atom, who is not the Atom that we commonly know. It's like his protege. Mm-hmm. And maybe one other I'm not thinking of. But it's a solid roster. It's just a very poorly written and conceived book. But anyway,
she's been
right
there
at the front of that book since the beginning.
Do you remember Ice? Fire and Ice? From like the 80s and 90s?
Vaguely.
Like Fire was green, and she had other names like Green Flame, Green Fury, something like that. And then Ice, I think, was also Ice Maiden or something.
I think I know them from like the maybe Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
But at some point, maybe.
Yeah, but I guess maybe they've been retired, and so Killer Frost. Because I'm like, why would you have Killer Frost be part of the JLA when you have a hero with ice powers that you would use?
Well, some of those obscure characters from like the early to mid '90s are starting to pop back up too. Like Maxima has shown up in I think Supergirl.
Yeah.
Which that was a really obscure character that was part of the Death of Superman arc. So
yeah.
But I kind of like her. So
yeah, I like her too. I did not know that Killer Frost was a hero in the comics right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. But yeah, so I mean, you bring up a good point though, is they kill a lot.
They basically kill everybody but Waller in the main three.
Yeah. Yeah,
good
they
guys
do.
And bad guys. I mean, good. I'm saying good in air quotes, and bad guys both.
But squad and non-squad alike.
There are very few survivors at the end of this thing.
Yeah, I was shocked, I kind of like that. You know, like it's Suicide Squad. It's a Grindhouse movie. Like kill off everyone. I thought that was kind of cool. It took balls. I dug it.
Now, let's just go ahead and jump right into this because this is probably one of the other few positive things I'm going to have to say about the movie. The thing with Thrawn, from the beginning that something is not right with I said Thrawn.
Thawne, yeah, it's okay.
I had Star Wars on the brain. Sorry, Thawne. He's off, and dead. And I'm thinking to myself, how has he not caught them already? And then the Deadshot makes the comment of something's wrong with him. Otherwise, he would have been in here and killed us all already. So that just furthers that. So he's off, and then when they do pay that off later and show you why he is not to his full abilities. Yeah, I thought that was a really nice callback to something that everybody loves with that.
Well, that was a great reveal because I was thinking as I was watching it, I was like, man, he looks exactly like out of Flashpoint. And then when they revealed that it is Thawne from Flashpoint, I was like, oh, wow. So it does tie into the Flashpoint continuity, but I think the Flashpoint continuity was prior to the New 52. It was like prior to Justice League War. So again, I don't know if that actually connects it to the other animated continuity, but it connects to Flashpoint. And I even looked it up, and C. Thomas Howell was his voice in Flashpoint, which I did not remember. But I was like, wow, that's a really cool reveal and a really surprise twist. I did not expect it. I liked that. But that was what I was getting at earlier, is you've got the Suicide Squad, and then you've got Thawne and his people, but then you also have Vandal Savage and his people. And so I just felt like Vandal Savage and his people was just one too many. So it was just weird because there were 3 different factions going after this card.
And then with the rift that's caused between Vandal and his daughter, it almost splits off I don't want to say into a 4th group because it was basically just her at that point, but
right.
It was really busy on that front, but none of it really paid off particularly well for me anyway.
Right.
Like I kept thinking to myself, I don't remember, Vandal Savage is not a character I have a great deal of familiarity with outside of these animated films. Like I've read Tower of Babel, and I don't even remember him being in that, but he probably was because it's been years since I've read it. But that's what what was that called? Justice League Doom, is that the one that was based off of that? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I know him from animated stuff, and he's never been a character that I really cared about. I actually find him kind of boring. Like I hated him on Legends of Tomorrow. Hated him. Which is probably blasphemous to you, but that's all right.
I liked him.
Yeah. So
he wasn't as good as he could have been, but I still liked him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I kept thinking to myself, I am not aware of him ever having a kid. But then, he says later he's, sired hundreds of thousands or whatever it was, kids over the centuries. And I'm guessing, okay, this would make sense anyway, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But I find his character very rarely carries any weight for me, and especially not in this. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think his daughter and her, I don't know if she's supposed to be one of the new gods because I didn't recognize the giant redhead.
I was not familiar with either of those characters.
Like I didn't know if she was supposed to be one of the Furies or something like that.
I thought she looked like it, but I don't think she was.
Okay. So
I don't know her. So the daughter was Scandal Savage, who I had never heard of prior to this.
Real clever.
And her girlfriend was Knockout.
Don't know her from.
And yeah, I'd never heard of her.
That sounds like a Fury kind of a name, though.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, those two didn't do a thing for me because they had no real presence to speak of. Like you're supposed to feel some kind of emotion for when Vandal shoots down Knockout. Mm-hmm. I didn't care. I was like, why do I care? This is even going on right now. And that's
I don't think you're supposed to. I don't think you're supposed to mourn for her. It's just more like,
I know it gives her the motivation to betray him at that point. But I don't care. Like at that point, I was like, all of you just need to go away. Go back to Thawne. He's far more interesting. So like that, I guess that was the one thing with Thawne continuously. I had it implanted early that something was wrong with him and like he's not performing to full abilities. And through the whole film, that part captivated me because I kept wondering to myself, what is going on with him? Like, is the Speed Force trying to leave him? Like, it never even occurred to me that he was the Thawne from Flashpoint. Like, that never even was a thought that remotely crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so when he makes the bit about, he was shot by Batman, I'm like, Batman isn't going to shoot somebody in the head outside of Dark Knight Returns or, Ben Affleck's version. So, what happened here? And then he says, in an alternate timeline, I'm like, oh. That's when the switch got flipped. I mean, that's obviously a huge tell, but I'm not sure how well the science works that he's got a 2.5-inch diameter hole from front to back of his head, and he's still functioning in any way, shape, or form, Speed Force or not. But, I can suspend disbelief to a degree with that.
Yeah, I was like, I'll have to go with your explanation because the Speed Force isn't a real thing anyway. So I'm gonna assume that what you said.
When you actually see brain
works.
coming out of his head in that slow motion shot, like not a small amount of brain at that.
Right.
You would think that his capacities are going to be a little bit more screwed up, other than just his powers.
Right. He just sits in the corner drooling.
Let me tell you the one thing that really has me messed up, and I'm jumping all over the place, but I just want to get this around because although I didn't really care for the movie at all, this is the one part of the movie that literally had me going, oh, are you kidding me? So he gets the card, right? Like he's got the get out of hell free card, which is ridiculous, but I'll go with it. I'll go with it. He's got it in his hand. He's got what he wants. He's got what he's been hunting for this entire thing. And Killer Frost throws the icicles at him, and he's running around dodging the icicles. Like at this point, he should just let go and die because he's got the card in his hand, and he knows this, right? He's basically saying he's more or less out of time, right?
Who's he? Which one?
Thawne,
who's he in?
Thawne. He's got the card in his hand. He's dead. He's walking dead, literally, at this point. Mm-hmm. And the Speed Force is the only thing keeping him alive because he's manipulated time with it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the card in his hand. Why is he running away from those icicles? Why isn't he just taking one to the chest or the face or whatever?
Does he ever have it in his hand, though?
Yes. He had it in his friggin' hand.
Okay. Then it's a valid point.
Then later
Since
on,
he was the one who was after it.
Yeah. Off.
Well, because that's where he even says, right? He goes, "I'll make sure that whatever bullet you shoot is lethal." So you're right. What's he waiting for?
Why would he say that? Why wouldn't he say, "Go ahead and injure me then," and then shoots at the knee and he drops his head down and catches the bullet in the face? I mean, why? He's got what he wants. I don't understand the
what is he waiting for?
Concept of why he isn't going out of his way to make sure he dies when he has this card in his hand. Instead, he's still doing villain monologue crap.
No, that's a valid point.
So anyway, that part, it drove me exceptionally crazy.
I don't have an answer. So it's a good point. I thought the MacGuffin of this get out of hell free card was interesting and unexpected.
It's original. I'll give it that. It's original.
Exactly. It is definitely original. It's a little bizarre, but okay. But what I liked about it is that whenever someone did have it, they were essentially protected because the last thing anyone would want to do is kill them, because then it completely uses up the card. So I kind of liked that, how there were certain points where he's like, I've got the card, you got to let me walk away, because if you go after me, then the card's worthless.
Right.
So I kind of liked how it put people in that situation. But you have a valid point about once Thawne has it in his hand, he should have at that point just died or tried or made himself die one way or the other.
Run headfirst into one of those 50 icicles that's sticking out of the floor, crying out loud.
Well, and I was kind of under the impression that, like, he was, because he manipulated the Speed Force to stay alive as long as he has, he should be able to just turn that off, right? I don't know.
If he's got it manipulated to keep him alive, one would think he could let go of it and drop dead right there on the spot, because obviously that wound is not anything minor that he suffered.
Right. Yeah. I'm a little fuzzy on that too. So, but I did think it was interesting how Amanda Waller sends these guys after that card because she's terminally ill. And she knows the terrible things that she has done. And so I actually thought that was really good motivation for her.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. But it's hard to feel bad with her being terminally ill, although she's, to me, is one of the more interesting things about the Suicide Squad as a whole. So I kept thinking to myself, are you really not going to let her live at the end of this thing? Is what kept going through my head.
Yeah. Well, you're not supposed to feel bad. I think you're misunderstanding feeling bad and driving the story. Those are two different things.
It's not the feeling bad at that point.
You're not supposed to sympathize with her.
Bitch. I mean, we know it. Everybody knows it. The people that work for her know it, willingly or unwillingly. The people who are her peers and Batman, whoever, everybody knows exactly who she is, what she is, and everything else. So it's not that I feel any kind of sympathy to her character, but I kept thinking to myself, if you get rid of her, you've lost something that's incredibly interesting about the Suicide Squad. And, for me, one of the primary things that's interesting about them. So what are they getting at here?
Well, I mean, there's always a way to reverse it because she doesn't die in this movie.
Sure.
But they leave it open. So, speaking of all these characters that they pop in here, we get a Two-Face cameo, which I thought was cool. Professor Pig plays a part, which was unexpected. But I got to see the more comic book version of Tobias Whale. And I am not familiar with Tobias Whale outside of the Black Lightning show. So I was like, oh, is this what he looks like when he's not on the show? I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting because I'm not familiar with the character aside from that.
He was just in the Black Lightning. They did a 6-issue miniseries called Cold Dead Hands, which was really good. Everybody should read that. 6-issue just finished up a week or two ago, so it should be in trade soon. It's worth reading. If you like the show, it's very much themed, much like what the show is. But yeah, he was in there, and that's similar, not exactly, but similar to what he looked like in that. So
yeah. It was interesting to me. I liked that. But no, I liked that there was the initial failed mission. And I knew that's where they were going when it was Punch and Julie, who, number one, I thought they were cool as hell. But I knew that they were all doomed because I'm like, okay, it's Deadshot and a bunch of red shirts, as you put it. So I know that this thing is going to go bad somehow. But even Count Vertigo, who's not, who's important enough, but they kill him. I liked that initial mission, and I liked seeing these other characters, and that was when they were after Tobias Whale. So it was just interesting to see them just continually knock these bad guys off one by one by one.
Yeah, it was kind of ballsy. Like I said, I mean, the body count at the end of the film really is shocking. I mean, I don't know what any other word to use for it. That Frost and Thawne and Vandal Savage and pretty much everybody but Harley, Deadshot, and Boomerang and Waller.
And what I liked is that in Suicide Squad, the live action movie, and then in Assault on Arkham, they threw in a red shirt to die immediately just to prove that Waller wasn't bluffing. So in Assault on Arkham, it was KG Beast, and then it was obviously Slipknot in the other movie. And I like that in this one, they didn't do that. So even though so many of them die, they weren't just there to be worthless and just to be a sacrificial lamb. They actually still all played a part in the story before they die. Like Copperhead. I like that Copperhead's the one who takes on Killer Frost when she betrays them, and they have a cool fight, and then they end up dying together. I actually thought that was cool. I knew that Copperhead was probably doomed from the beginning, because why else would you put him in? Mm-hmm. But I liked that he made it through the end, and then when he died, it actually mattered.
Yeah, Copperhead was very much the Killer Croc character in this, but they don't want to kill Killer Croc now because he's an established part of the quote unquote known Suicide Squad at this point. So
Yeah.
They're saving him for something bigger and better, it looks like.
Well, and again, I liked mixing it up. Like if it was just the same roster as the movie, I'd have been a little disappointed. You're
not going to be able to have that body count at the end if it was the same, 5 or 6 people.
Well, you could if you decide it's not in continuity.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It depends.
But
yeah.
like in the comic book, they killed Boomerang off and then brought him back like 4 issues later, in the most preposterous way you can ever imagine. But I don't even want to get into that. But you never get a lot of sense of urgency or anything with that because none of these characters are going to die.
Right.
But yeah, having these mix-ins here like Cottonmouth and whatnot, you've got some flexibility on what to do with there.
Mm-hmm. Have we been calling him Cottonmouth the whole time?
Copperhead, Cottonmouth, whatever.
Copperhead. Have we been saying Cottonmouth?
I don't know. Is it important enough to remember his name?
It's Copperhead. And I'm sorry if we've been saying Cottonmouth. Don't email us. Cottonmouth is Luke Cage, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think that's the bad guy in Luke Cage. Copperhead.
Isn't there a Cottonmouth in the... Well, you're not reading that Bane Conquest series, are you?
I am not.
They're fighting some whole big snake cult people, and it's ridiculous. But anyway,
yeah.
Not important. The snake guy. We're just going to call him the snake guy.
Yeah. Anyway, the other thing, and this is interesting. So we talked about how it's a hard R. From the very beginning it is. Again, I liked how Punch and Julie were just cutting people in half with those rays and stuff. I was like, man, all right, this is what we're doing. So tons of violence, of course. A lot of sexual situations. And in the thing at the beginning where it's like rated R for this, and it says brief graphic nudity. There's no actual nudity in this. Not that I saw.
Yes, there is.
There's implied nudity.
Oh no, there's full-blown nudity in this, my friend.
Where?
2 shots of it when
I was watching.
When Knockout gets up out of that hot tub, there's a glimpse of boob, and then when she hugs up on Scandal, there's boob shot. Like full-on nipple boob shot.
No.
Yes. Put it in and watch it right now. I'll wait. I got 4 deer standing on my back porch right now. I'll watch them. You watch that. We'll come back here and reconvene.
I swear I did not see it.
I promise you it's there.
It was covered in shadow.
I remember thinking to myself when they did the first flash of her getting out of the tub with it, and I was like, oh, really? That's what we're going with? And then they did it again when she was hugged up on her. I was like, yep, this is the movie they made.
I'll have to check again because
I promise you it's there.
Because, you start your movie with brief graphic nudity. I'm like, well, I'm going to keep an eye out for that. I'm still there's a 12-year-old boy in me still that's like, brief graphic nudity? All right. And so I swear I didn't see it. And when she gets out of the tub, I looked and I was like, no, there was shadow covering the important bits.
It's not a very well lit shot. But in both cases, there's shadow over it, but there is clear nippleage to be made out in those.
All right, I'm gonna have to recheck it, and it's gonna be awkward because my wife's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm freeze framing cartoon nudity. What are you doing?"
It's there. I trust me. It is. My boob radar is on point. It was there.
Usually mine is too. There's not many things about me that I can brag about, but usually when it comes to picking out boobs in a movie, I'm pretty solid.
Well, you missed these, pal. I don't know what to tell you.
Apparently I did. So I will also say this, as far as sexiness goes, I respect that they were equal opportunity offenders for both female and male.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I was watching this last night, and we meet this other character, Steel Maxim, and he is a stripper in Branson, Missouri, and he's doing his little strip routine, and my wife is getting ready for bed, and she's like, "What the hell are you watching?" And I'm like, Suicide Squad.
For anyone who... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, just she was like, "Okay, enjoy."
For anyone who doesn't know, Branson, Missouri is Las Vegas if Ned Flanders made it.
I did know that, actually.
Okay.
But Here's the thing. We've talked about it in the past, and, we've had some emails where it's like, oh, like, don't you feel that maybe the sexualizing of Harley Quinn goes a little too far sometimes? And we both agreed, yeah, sometimes it does, and it takes away other parts of her characters because they're too focused on that. They do not do that in this with Harley. So credit for that. They don't really use her as a sexual object in this movie.
No, it's the Steel Maxim and Knockout are basically the two focal points of that.
Yeah, but there are some random female strippers, and then there's some random male strippers that are just kind of there, faceless, nameless ones, but they're just kind of in the background. But so anyway, like when it came to Harley, we talked about that. It's like, yeah, you can do better. But if you're gonna again make a trashy movie and you're gonna sexualize characters, equal opportunity, and then can't feel too bad about it. So yeah. I appreciated that about this movie. I was like, yes, for both.
Was this guy really the best choice that the Dr. Fate helmet could have made, though?
It wasn't. No, it was not the best choice, I think. He made me laugh, though. I was amused by him.
Okay.
But yeah, it was bizarre. And when they introduced him being like, oh, Steel Maxim, go find him, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Should I know who this is? And then they showed like it has that, that little Fate logo emblem, whatever that thing is called.
Oh, the ankh on the tramp stamp, as Waller calls it.
Yeah, the tramp stamp. When they did introduce that, I went, oh, like kind of like Dr. Fate, but weird. And then when they revealed that, yeah, he was an ex-Dr. Fate, that was strange. But again, I thought his character was kind of funny. They must have been hard up for Dr. Fates at that time, and that's why he got the call. But anyway, it was interesting.
It was unique. I'll credit it that far.
He's not my favorite Dr. Fate, but yeah, he, as I said earlier, he's the only hero you see in the entire movie. So I do give them credit as like, there's no Batman, there's no Flash, there's no Superman. This is all villains all the time, with the exception of this Dr. Fate flashback, and that's just a flashback.
For a minute, I thought to myself, this card would be much better suited under the visage of like Constantine. But right. Then it came to me not very long after that when I thought to myself, Constantine would be much better, having this card inside of the House of Mystery and maybe even combine a little bit of Justice League Dark in there. But then I realized Constantine wouldn't just let that card walk away and then you'd be like, whatever. He would actually be in active pursuit of it versus this guy just didn't care.
Yeah.
It's the reason he got chucked out of the house and lost the helmet, but I don't know. It wasn't particularly strong for me, writing wise. I get the setup. I get why it's there. You need this mystical thing, and who better to have a mystical thing set up than, either Fate or Constantine or somebody along those lines. And they had to have some way why Dr. Fate and or Constantine or whoever was in pursuit of trying to retrieve this item.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you should have just made a better movie and had the Justice League Dark chasing after it, or Zatanna, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is just me griping because I didn't like the movie.
It's all right. No, I hear you, but I guess it if you're getting this mystical MacGuffin, it makes sense that it would come from a Dr. Fate or a Constantine, but because it was this Dr. Fate, you understand why it's still out there and in play. When they introduced it, it was, and then they introduced us to Bronze Tiger, and we get that Bronze Tiger moment, and it's it's one of the stronger moments of the film where they're talking about heaven and hell and whether they believe it, and Bronze Tiger's like, yeah, like I absolutely believe in it. That's like the one moment you get of his soul and his character, and that was what I was saying earlier. I needed more of that, because as soon as that happened, I went, oh, I see where this is going. He's going to die. He's going to use up the card, and then the card will be worthless. Great. I'm good with that. I think as far as the story goes, that's a great way to go with it. I just wanted to care more about him, so that way when that happened, it was a little more emotional, but it's really just that one moment. The rest of, I feel like he and Deadshot's rivalry and their back and forth, I think could have been stronger And I think that's where the movie, for me, misses a little bit.
Yeah, and he was a sorely underdeveloped character. Me being a person of religious faith myself, I have an appreciation for characters that exhibit that, in any medium, movies, comics, or any of that such. So when he's talking about the grace of God as his salvation and the only reason that he's where he's at and what have you, those kind of things usually perk up my ears, and I'm like, okay, I can roll with this. But within minutes of that happening, I was back to not caring about him anymore because they never really went any further to explore that, or the mention of his fiance being killed was like the only other thing that happens later on that even was any kind of an anchor to a character moment for him, because he just was not. I like the martial arts, I like the religious background and what have you with him, but he was a wafer thin character, and that's unfortunate because I think there was better material there to be had with him.
Right. No, I agree.
Especially having another 10, 12 minutes or whatever on your runtime, you can develop these sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's just it. I mean, if that is going to be the emotional core of your movie, then that's what you do need to spend a little more time on, instead of everybody constantly double-crossing everybody else, which happens a lot in this movie. Which makes sense. It's the Suicide Squad. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that, but you're right. Like, I mean, if this is what you want your emotional payoff to be, you better put in the work to make it work. So I did like the moment when he was dying and and Deadshot asks about his fiance. I think that's a nice moment. But again, I just needed more between the two of them. Almost, well, in the live action movie, one thing I think worked really well for me, I loved the back and forth between Deadshot and Rick Flag. Like, I think the two of them had chemistry and that they were at odds for most of the movie. And that way, at the end, when they show each other respect, you're like, it actually works. Mm-hmm. That's, for me, one of the strengths of the live action movie. And that's what this wanted to be, but they couldn't give it enough depth or time to develop it properly.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's probably one of those things that will play a little better a second time, because I've said it before, a lot of times when I watch these animated movies, they do come together a little nicer the second time. I will watch it a second time eventually, not like you. But so that's, that is one of my issues that maybe it'll work a little bit better once I see it again. But I was out of time before this recording, so I've only seen it once, and that's something I felt was lacking.
Yeah, I thought about trying to squeeze in 2 viewings of it, and then I was like, after watching that 50 minutes of it this morning, I was like, you know what? I don't need a second one. I'm good.
All right.
And I didn't go into the movie wanting to dislike it. It's just how things were put together here. It did not appeal to my particular taste. Is all it really boiled down to. So I'm not telling anybody else they're wrong for thinking that the movie was fine. If you like it, great. For me, it just did not work on pretty much any. I didn't care for the characters. I didn't really care for the story. It's not a total loss to speak of, but it's just life's too short for me to spend another 86 minutes watching this thing.
Well, all right then. That seems like a good place to wrap up then.
Okay.
Because I don't really have a lot more to say other than I had a good time with it.
I'll say my one last positive thing about it, so we can go out on a higher note here. I did like the fact that Bronze Tiger got to use the card. Mm-hmm. It's a reasonable enough thing that he's the one that exhibited the most goodness, for lack of something better to call it. So, him being the one that gets to cash it out is pretty cool. But then instead of, Waller knowing that the card is used up, she thinks she's got this valuable commodity that Deadshot hands her. And that's just like his big F you to her. So that I did kind of like. I thought that
did too.
That was pretty well done.
I expected the card to disappear. I didn't think it would still exist after it's been used, but the fact that it did, I did like the Deadshot's like, oh, here you go.
But at the same time, I didn't like the fact that she's like, well, this feels cold. It's like, how do you know what the hell the temperature of the card was beforehand? You've never had it in your possession. So I don't know. Anyway, I like Deadshot giving that to her in that moment. Like he's really stuck it to her bad with that because he knows and she doesn't. So that was a good way to go out, I think.
I like when Deadshot gives it to her too. Because it's rated R. Give it to her, Deadshot.
See, they did write
Give it to her.
They did write this movie for you, clearly. 14-year-old boy syndrome has taken over. And yet you didn't see the boobs. That's the part that floors me.
I know. What the heck, man? What is going on? Maybe it's because it was the middle of the night.
That's the best time to see boobs, isn't it?
I agree, but I was also trying to stay awake, so a lot of the details are a bit fuzzy. To go back, I also liked at the very beginning they did this little quick explanation that Waller had lost weight.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, at least you addressed it. I think that's kind of cool. So
is Vanessa Williams contractually obligated not to play an overweight person, or?
Of course not. But just for whatever reason, they decided to draw her skinnier. And I've heard fans be like, no, fat Waller only, or whatever. Even though at this point, I've seen her skinnier more than I've seen her fat at this point.
I don't care. Just give me the good,
Yeah, I don't care either. But I just liked that this kind of had it both ways. They designed her as the thinner version, but they acknowledged that she used to be larger. So what I was going to say is I also like that it was a road trip. I like that it was a road trip movie of the Suicide Squad and a Winnebago. So there were some fun montages of them taking turns driving and stuff. So I was entertained enough, I guess. So closing thoughts and a letter grade for this one, Jamie.
I've kind of already given my closing thoughts to it, more or less. Just didn't work for me overall is where I really land with it. As far as a letter grade, I'm going to be somewhat generous with it, even though I feel like this is higher than I really want to give it, and say it's a D+.
Okay.
The animation did look good. I will definitely say that as well, so I can try and really keep it on positives. I thought the animation for it was pretty good looking throughout.
All right, good. And so, yeah, I had a good time with it. I embraced the R-rated raunchy trashiness of it because that's exactly what it was trying to be. And so I embraced it and enjoyed it on those terms. Don't share this with the kids. This one is just for the grown-ups. So don't be fooled. Please don't. Watch the live action movie, which is more suitable for the kids than this one. But I was okay with it. I went with it on those terms and I had a good enough time. I liked how many characters were in this. I liked how many characters they killed because the hell with it. It's Suicide Squad. Have a blast. Body count. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And I liked the twist of tying it in with Flashpoint. It was unexpected and it was fun. So I will revisit it. It's not my favorite one ever, but I had a good time. So I'm at a B+.
That's a pretty significant score difference, but menus at restaurants and all that.
Well, sometimes it's nice to disagree because we tend to agree on most things.
We are generally pretty like-minded. That is true.
So it's good. So people listening to this who hated it, they're going to be like, go, Jamie, go. And people who liked it will be like, go, Andy, go. And then we'll start like opposing teams and then we'll all fight like in West Side Story.
Didn't they just dance instead of fight, though? Because I'm not really much of a dancer.
That's because I'm better at dancing than fighting.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go with that.
You dance, I'll fight. We'll see who's standing at the end.
Oh, I don't like my odds. All right. Well, without further ado, that's Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. Hopefully you guys dug it. If you didn't dig it, it's okay. You're with Jamie on this one.
You've got like 9 more DC animated movies on the slate this year. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's no shortage.
Work out by law of average.
There's no shortage. There are more coming before you know it. But now let's hear what you guys have to say as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox.
Wayne Manor Mailbox.
Now that intro to the Wayne Manor mailbox came from our pal Adam Lance Hendrickson, a.k.a. Bishop. Well done, Adam Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah, Bishop,
was good.
You guys are making this contest a little harder than I was anticipating it was going to be. Well done, Bishop.
They really are, aren't they? Like, there's been so many good ones.
We're going to have a lot of deliberation on this.
I know. It's tough because you guys have done such an awesome job. I don't know if I can pick just one, but that was great. As it started, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, nice. This is good. Where's this going? And then the way it ends, beautiful. Very well done. So thank you, Bishop.
Finish on that for sure.
For sure. So great. All right, well, now here's the actual emails. This is from good old Stuart from Guernsey. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, I hope you're both doing well. Now that we've heard a slight update from Joe Manganiello that the Deathstroke movie is still in the works, what would you want the movie to be? Rather than be a battle with another hero, I'd like to see a story involving the Wilson family and all three of his children with flashbacks to his past in the Army, his past-present relationship with Wintergreen, and what led to Jericho having his throat slit, and the consequences that it had on him and his family. I wanted to set up everything he has to deal with in the present and take us on a journey involving something from his past, maybe involving Rose. I'm so hyped for this movie as Deathstroke is one of my favorite characters. Also, have you read Deathstroke vs. Batman yet? It's looking to be an amazing story. Sorry for the ramble, guys. Keep up the good work. From Stuart. Stuart, as always, thank you for the message. Always good to hear from you. It is obvious that Deathstroke is one of your favorites based on that email, because I don't know who Wintergreen or Rose are.
Wintergreen is kind of like his Alfred, more or less.
Okay.
He's a little bit more actively involved in stuff than just, housekeeping and whatnot, but that's kind of what he is.
Okay. Well, you know more about Slade Wilson than I do, so I'm going to say what you said. That sounds good. I'd watch that.
Okay.
I just hope he has someone cool to fight. What about you, Jamie?
Yeah, I don't have any opposition to that, but I would think that some kind of a mix into even if it's a smaller cameo type of a thing mixed into the greater DC universe would be advisable to go with that instead of just a straight origin story with his family and whatnot. But I'd still watch that. I think it'd be cool, but I would imagine you're probably going to get, for me, this is what I think. I think you're probably going to get a little bit of flashback to him as to kind of how he got rolling, a little bit of an origin flashback, and then you're going to get more of a modern setting take versus, deal with a bunch of stuff in the past. I don't know that they're going to probably involve a great deal of his family, if any at all, because that seems to me a good way to convolute a story for especially a first movie. But I don't know. I've been surprised by other things before, but I'm along for the ride, and I hope that movie happens sooner than later.
I agree. Did you read Batman vs. Deathstroke yet?
I did read Batman vs. Deathstroke. I was very pleased with it. Not a great deal has happened with it so far, but just enough to keep the appetite wet for it. They've had their one confrontation so far, and both of them at one point had the upper hand in the confrontation. So far, so good. We've got 3 issues to go, I believe. So, or is it maybe 5? I don't even remember if it's 4 or 6 issues now. I think it's 4.
I don't know. I haven't read it yet, obviously. I leave that to you.
Okay.
Great. Next message here is from Joe Kingsley. It says, hey, Andy, Jamie, and possibly the Yappy Aussie. The Yappy Aussie is not on this episode, Joe. I'm so sorry. He's actually, as we speak, he is on a runway in Australia, shantying, dressed as Captain Boomerang. It says, I've been thinking about this for a while, but do you think the Dark Knight trilogy was the best and worst thing to happen to Batman in cinema? With these films being so real-world and believable, I'm not sure the cinema goer will accept anything other than that bar set by Nolan going forward, as I don't think Batman works with superpowered super friends on the big screen. I think it might take quite a few years for the Dark Knight trilogy to be almost forgotten before a new take will come close. Do you agree? All the best, Joe. Interesting question, Joe. Thank you for the message. Jamie, do you want to start?
I do think it is the best and worst thing to happen. The best because I adore those movies greatly, all 3 of them. Worst because for whatever reason, everybody had it in their mind. That's what everybody wanted out of every superhero from that point on. So I think it affected, don't get me wrong. I love Man of Steel. It's still my favorite of the modern crop of DC movies. Post Dark Knight anyway, for the DCEU, if you will. But I think there's too much influence of that Dark Knight Nolan style involved. And I think we need more of the, I've said it before, we need less Dark Knight Returns and more Brave and the Bold coming into these movies now. I don't think for a second that Batman working with superpowered beings is a bad idea on a movie screen. I genuinely don't believe that at all, because it's worked in the comics for over 70 years now. I mean, Justice League was, 1953 or something like that's when the Justice League first showed up. I don't even remember the date. It was a long time, maybe 60, whatever. It's been a long time of these people working together. It will work on a screen. We just need to, focus a little bit better on how to present it, I think.
Yeah. Best and worst thing, maybe. I think it's a great trilogy, stands on its own, but do I think it has set a bar that's impossible to achieve? No, I don't. Think about how quickly people were ready to see a new Batman on the big screen after The Dark Knight Rises. With all of the swirl around Batman vs. Superman and Ben Affleck, nobody was saying, I'm not ready to see Batman again. There was plenty of swirls whether Ben Affleck was the right choice. There was a lot of excitement about Ben Affleck making a Batman movie. Obviously, there were a lot of people who lined up and rushed out to see Batman vs. Superman. And so, do I think people aren't willing to see another Batman because of the Nolan trilogy? No. Do I think people aren't willing to see Batman with super powered beings? No. I think that any of the stumbles that have happened in the DC films since the Dark Knight trilogy were issues unto those films and not the greater question of, it's not the Nolan films.
Well, look at, I hate to do this, but I have to because it came to me now. Look at how long it took the Marvel Cinematic Universe to open up into a lot of that sort of thing. Like the first Iron Man movie is very much grounded in a quote unquote realistic world. Like even the stuff with the 10 rings and the Mandarin and everything else was kind of, danced around, but never to the extent that it was any kind of a mystical thing. Even by the time you get to the Thor movie, which I think was like the fourth movie in the MCU.
It was the third.
Okay, the third movie.
Because it was Iron Man 2, then Thor.
Okay, they
No, you're right. It was the fourth. It was
the Hulk.
Incredible Hulk. Everyone forgets Incredible. Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor.
But even as you get to the Thor movie, you deal with some of that mysticism of Asgard. But they even went so far as to say, you call it magic, we call it science. Where I come from, the same thing. They still would not embrace that full blown mystical, superpowered kind of a thing in that first Thor movie, even though it was clearly presented in that way. So there's been a hesitation right along, and probably because of the way that those Nolan movies were done to go in that full-blown fantasy kind of an element with these movies. But now I think everybody's kind of opening up more to embrace it. Like obviously Wonder Woman did. Guardians was a full-blown sci-fi movie from Marvel. Doctor Strange obviously is a huge step in that direction for the Marvel universe. So I think people are opened up to it and ready for it now. It's just the presentation that they choose to do it is going to make the difference.
Yeah, I think that saying, because the Nolan movies were successful and those were more realistic, then people will only accept that is trying to find an excuse for people not to like the movies they got. And that has nothing to do with the reason some people didn't like the movies they got.
That's fair.
The people who did not like Justice League didn't say Batman has no business being in the Justice League. No, people who didn't like Justice League didn't like it for a lot of other reasons, but no one said it's because Batman shouldn't be hanging out with these guys. Well, maybe one or two people said that, but those two people are two people in a huge crowd of other people. So that's not the issue with the DC films. And I stand by that.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, next message here is from Christopher Mendoza. It says, Doctor Who. It says, yes, I just listened to the Heart of Ice episode. Blink, Girl in the Fireplace, definite entry points for Mr. Jamie. If Jamie needs a doctor's appointment, I recommend taking those two and calling me in the morning. It'll be just what the doctor ordered. Perfect for a Netflix and chill. Have an ice day. Sorry. Cheers. Toph. Anyway. So he's giving you, those are good recommendations to sample a little Doctor Who. Blink, definitely. That's what I said on the last one. Watch Blink. It's just like a great horror movie that happens to be an episode of Doctor Who.
I'm going to tell all of you the same thing I told Tim Rooney when he started in with me about this last week. For me, Doctor Who is like fetch. Stop trying to make it happen.
How long did you try to get me to make Game of Thrones happen?
Yeah, but I was right.
And I did. And I'm right here.
It's not like I'm the only one that told you about Game of Thrones.
I'm not the only one telling you about Doctor Who.
No, there's 3 of you now.
I mean, I don't watch it religiously, but there's some really good stuff. I've watched it here and there, and there's some good stuff in there. You're only cheating yourself.
There's clearly something to it, but man, Doctor Who's got what 58 seasons now? There's no possible way I'd ever catch up on that.
No, you don't go back. I didn't go back to the beginning. Don't go back to the beginning.
Have we met? Do you not know how my completist nature works with this stuff? I can't do something half-assed like that.
Yes, you can.
It's bad enough I'm trying to do it with comic books half the time.
With Doctor Who, you can.
I still feel uneasy because I haven't read everything in the New 52.
Well, you'll get over it.
Yeah.
Blink. If I can just get you to watch Blink. You don't have to watch anything else. Anyway, next message here is from Robert J. Bird. It just says, Batman rocks! ! In all caps. That's it.
He's right.
And I read it. I read it because I like his succinctness.
He's absolutely right, too.
More emails like that. Those are easy to answer. Batman rocks? Confirmed. All right. Next message here is from Ben Hoffman. It says, hello, it's me. I was wondering, how would you think if the wedding of Bruce and Selena stays canon like Lois and Clark? If the newly wedded will be together forever, even give some character developments and stories about Wayne family, like issues between Damian and Selena, even the future version of Helena Wayne / Huntress, but still have adventures fighting the forces of the superstitious and cowardly lot. I, for one, would see that a thing and wouldn't see DC removing the marriage like they did for Superman and Lois in the beginning of the New 52. Yeah, I'm a BatCat shipper. Sue me, Jamie. LOL. Sorry for the long email, Ben. Well, there you go, Jamie.
If they make it canon and it sticks, I'll live with it, but I'll probably never be particularly happy about it.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it would be ballsy. I guess I will give them that.
But it's not the same dynamic as Lois and Clark, and never has been. So as far as the ability for that relationship to last, I mean, time will tell, I guess, but I don't know. It ain't my thing. I can tell you that much.
Oh, we're well aware. Next message is from Ryan Mock. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, I just started checking out podcasts for the first time last week, and I figured since I'm a huge Bat fan, Batman would be the first topical podcast I would like to look up. Lo and behold, after listening to a few others, I eventually realized that Holy BatCast was the one for me because of how in-depth you guys go into your reviews. The Long Halloween is my favorite so far. How much you care about the superhero universes. Kudos to you guys for being awesome. I have a few questions for you and any guests that you might have. Number one, looking through all the years of comic book adaptations of Batman and the Joker, which story arcs, artists' era is your favorite iterations of these characters? The reason I'm asking is I'm getting a tattoo of Batman on my left calf and Joker on my right, and I'm not sure where to start. Looking as far as splash pages and whatnot. Any help would be great. Number two, have you watched any of the fan-made videos, the Joker Diaries, based off Heath's Joker? I have, and they're excellently made. Perhaps you could review it. Lastly, what are your thoughts on the Batman Eternal story arc? Thanks for reading. Keep up the great work. Ryan Knox Mock. Ryan, thank you and welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for listening to the show and your email. Okay, questions here. Favorite adaptations of Batman and the Joker? I love like the mid-'80s versions where Batman is still in the blue and gray and the Joker is like that classic clown, long face, but not like disfigured, you know? I like those. Those are my favorite. Like Neil Adams or the other guy whose name keeps coming up. Luis Garcia Lopez? Was that it?
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, I think.
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Like those, like for me, that's just such a quintessential looks. That's what I would go with. Have not seen the fan-made videos of the Joker Diaries. And then Batman Eternal. I didn't read Batman Eternal. I read Batman and Robin Eternal. So I guess I need to go back and read Batman Eternal. Batman and Robin Eternal I liked, but it was odd because it was set in a very specific continuity time. And so it didn't get a lot of Batman. It was mostly all the different Robins. But I really enjoyed it nonetheless. Jamie, what about you?
Favorite iterations of Batman. I'm kind of with you. I kind of dig that classic look from right around the, when I first got into heavily reading was right around the Death in the Family time, I guess. Give or take in that era. And, a lot of Joker and Batman images stand out to me from that. But one of my favorite Joker images ever is from Dark Knight Returns, where he has that batarang sticking out of his eye. I don't know why I've always just loved that image the way that I have. So it's hard for me to say anything but that for him. I haven't read any of Batman Eternal. I think James Tynion's current arc in Detective is called Batman Eternal, and I'm really hip to that, if that means anything to you. And what was the middle thing?
It was YouTube videos, Joker Diaries.
I have not seen those. In fact, I haven't even heard of them until just now.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I think there's so many people who do like Heath Ledger Joker impressions that I've kind of just blocked them all out. Anyway, thank you for the message. Next message here is from Jeremy Lloyd.
I know him.
Jeremy. It says, yeah, I know that guy. It says, hey, Bat fans, with all the animated features we've gotten and continue to get, we've seen so many classic Batman tales made into animated movies, but we've yet to get the one that seems like a no-brainer, The Long Halloween. We're long overdue for a Batman Halloween movie, whether it be live action or animated. Just a small rant, not really a question, unless the dynamic duo has some insight into whether or not this will happen in the near future. To end this email, I'll put you guys on the spot, as I like to do. Looking back at all the marketing devices we've seen for Batman movies over the years, what is one of your favorites? Jeremy, thank you for the message. The Long Halloween, yeah, we've been saying it for years. Like, where's our animated version of that? I think that it would have to at least be a two-parter if they were to do a movie.
I was going to say, 2 90-minute movies, I think, could pretty well cover it, because a lot of those chapters do move really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think you do a 2-part movie, or now that you got the streaming service coming, you do a limited series.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that, and like a Netflix style thing. Yeah,
right.
On the new streaming app would be ideal. I think you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're with you. We want a Long Halloween as well, and definitely more Batman Halloween content. And then Batman marketing devices. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that.
Like the Batman MasterCard, or no? I guess it was MasterCard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either. I think I need more context for what you're asking. So sorry. Got nothing for that one.
Like if the Batman products, I mean, the one that stands out to me immediately was my 32-ounce Taco Bell Batman cup from the '89 film, I think it was.
I mean, I'm a sucker for all the Batman fast food tie-ins.
Yeah, see, I remember that cup vividly, because anytime we would go to a kegger when I was in high school, I took that cup and everybody always knew whose cup it was.
Yeah, I had all those. I had all the Batman Returns cups from McDonald's. We talked about it. We still use the Batman Forever glasses from McDonald's daily.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then Taco Bell had Batman and Robin. So yeah, I guess if that's what you're asking, fast food tie-ins. Fast food tie-ins make me think of a simpler time in the 80s and 90s in the summer movie season, and I loved it whenever there was a Batman movie coming out and I could go to a fast food restaurant and there'd be Batman stuff everywhere.
There just doesn't seem to be that much of that stuff going around anymore. Like
I know what happened.
When the Star Wars movies got re-released in '97 for the special editions, like Taco Bell freaking exploded with that stuff. It was everywhere. KFC had it. Pizza Hut had it. And then like
I worked at Pizza Hut when that happened, because I worked at Pizza Hut in high school, and I took everything home.
Oh yeah, me and my friends went into KFC and we're like, hey, can we get some chicken buckets? And like, you want white or duck meat? We don't want any of it. We just want the friggin' buckets, dude. Because they had Star Wars stuff on them.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but you don't see it. I mean, I don't remember anything even happening for like Force Awakens as far as a big fast food tie-in like that. Like you go to McDonald's now and they've got these halfway generic toys that go into Happy Meals now. There's no push tied to movies or anything.
I know.
That I've noticed.
I feel like we're missing out. Like, that was awesome when there was a big movie and it was tied in. You get the commercials for the fast food place. You go to get the Happy Meal toys, and then if you're lucky, there was some sort of nicer collectible, like the glasses for Batman Forever. Like, oh, I missed that.
The last really cool thing I can
more
remember
of that, less of everything else.
Happy Meal toys was the Justice League action stuff.
Yeah, and even that's not quite the same. Right. Come on, McDonald's. Get your shit together. All right. One last one, then we're out.
For more Big Macs and Cokes in our lives.
You're not wrong. But if I'm going to go anyway, at least I can use Batman as an excuse.
Fair point.
All right, Nick, the last message here is from Brian B. It says, hey guys, I was wondering with the 10th anniversary of The Dark Knight coming up, God, I'm old, if you guys were planning anything special for it. Personally, I'd love to see a retrospective podcast where you guys talk about its impact and your first impressions. Also, this question is for Jamie. It's a bit snarky, but it's in good fun. Who is higher on your enemies list, Tom King or Rian Johnson? As always, thanks for the enjoyable couple hours a week that you guys provide, and keep up the good work. Brian B., I love this message. And I love your question to Jamie. That's a great question to Jamie.
That's some cold-blooded shit to do to a guy.
That is the question of the week. Everyone else loses. Brian wins. To answer the first question, do we have something planned for The Dark Knight? Of course. We're not going to let the 10th anniversary of The Dark Knight go by without doing something. So stay tuned. And then Jamie. Who is a bigger enemy, Tom King or Rian Johnson?
It's tough for me to say. I actually like a good deal of both of their work outside of one particular item. I'm going to say the edge is probably going to go to Tom King being the bigger villain, because instead of just being one issue, like, Johnson had one movie that I cannot stand the sight, sound, or speak of, I get to read Tom King's every 2 weeks. So I guess he gets the edge just based on that. But I like both of their work outside of these one focal things. So it's not like I want either one of them dead or anything. If you want that, then we can talk about the New England Patriots. But that's just going to get me ugly, and we don't want to do that tonight.
No, we don't. We've gotten enough of that. Interesting. All right. Thanks for answering. And thank you to everybody for sending your messages. If you've got a question for the Wayne Manor mailbox, please send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Please and thank you. And also, if you get a moment, please leave us a review on iTunes. It's quick, it's easy, and we really, really appreciate it. It helps get the word out about the show. We're up to 245 reviews, Jamie, which is amazing.
That many people listen to us, huh?
I know. So this last review came in a few days ago. It is from Meppa84. It says, awesome show. It said, I just had to write a review for one of the best Batman podcasts that exist. I also just became a patron. Keep up the great work, guys. Meppa84, thank you for the wonderful review, and thank you for being one of our patrons. That is amazing. We're glad to have you as part of the family. But that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the show. Jamie, thank you as always for talking a little, in this case, Suicide Squad, but quite a bit of Batman sprinkled in there because we can't help ourselves.
Right. It is Holy BatCast after all, so yeah.
It's what we do.
It was a good show. It's been a long time since I got to let my grumpy self out a little, so it was nice. It's
nice to hear you grump about something. Well, if the folks want to keep up with you and see your grumpy tweets, where can they do
I have plenty of grumpy tweets and plenty of positive tweets that can all be found at BatRaider3960.
Cool. I've muted all your positive ones, so I only see the grumpy ones. It's more fun.
So you still get like 15 notifications a day, though.
Yeah, definitely. So please follow Jamie there. And then, of course, follow me in the show whenever you get a chance. But that is it for this episode. Thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe to the show. And again, leave us an iTunes review. And most importantly, like Michael Keaton's Batman said, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com, like our page on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube. But that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. We will see you in no time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Do it. Save me the trouble.
Maybe I'll just wound you too.
I promise you, Deadshot. I'm good for one last hit of speed. Any bullet you shoot, I'll make sure it's lethal. So go ahead. Make my afterlife